one of my mentors has this really good analogy as well. I don't know if it's an analogy, but she always says, if a door doesn't open for you, it's because of the person that is behind the door. That's it. And this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable because you have to take responsibility of who are you? Like, how are you showing up to life? If you're not showing up like the expansive person that you want to be, then how do you expect that door to open for you? So, but I would say 100%, there's been many times that I can count where me just having an optimistic mindset and just having the conviction within myself of knowing I know I'm incredible, I know I'm gonna get the job, did ended up allowing me to get the job. And also, what do I do if I don't get the job? The reality is that you also have to tell yourself, if I don't get the job, that doesn't mean anything about me. I'm still an incredible person. It means that something else better is coming. So I didn't get this. So see how you are shifting the perspective, but you also know that something better is coming, because if you were meant to get the job, you would have gotten the job, right? So so yeah, I would say optimism has helped me to open doors, or if the door did not open, to know that at least something better is coming, or that there's other areas in my life that I need to pay a little bit more of attention.
Well, welcome everyone back to the Sean Trey Show. I have an awesome repeat guest with me today. Would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yes. Hi, guys. My name is Ivy Forero. I am based out of Dubai. I have been here for about 2 years, grew up in the US, originally from Colombia. I am actually working for a big German company in the exhibition space, which is very exciting.
Nice.
And I'm in the space of customer success, but outside of that, I'm just a curious human being who likes to explore what's possible when you go all in and you commit to yourself and you try to show up as the best version of yourself.
I love that. Like, if you can show up as the best version of yourself, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, because we had a really interesting conversation last time, and it left me wanting to ask you more. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was that quote behind you. Like, you have a really cool quote on the wall behind you, and it says, "What's the best that could happen?" And I was talking to someone the other day, and I was saying, I think a lot of people are pre-wired to think bad things are going to happen. There's going to be bad outcomes. But that is this very positive perspective. And I wanted to ask you, like, what does it really mean to believe that good things are going to happen in your life? And how do you make that happen in your life?
I love that. I love this question because I feel like really when we talk about social media or the news, it's all fear mongering. So when
Yeah.
we're exposed to fear, I feel like that's the number one thing that our ego wants to do, is to protect us. And then if we look
Yep.
at this from a neuroscience point of view, our amygdala, which back in the day it used to protect us when lions were around and prey and whatnot, but now our amygdala is just always scanning for things that can threaten you, right? So I feel like
Hmm.
it's very human to try to go to a point where you are in fear. And sometimes I also feel like we are searching, or we want to say, oh, like, oh, see, I knew I was not going to get that job, because you want to see the future so that way you don't get disappointed. That's what basically really, without us subconsciously doing this is basically what our mind is doing. So I feel like when we're looking at when we're talking about looking at life, you have two lenses. One
Yeah.
lens is you're thriving, and when a problem and a challenge happens, which is always going to happen because life is like that, there's ups and downs, you can co-create with what's happening, and grow from it. Or you can fall into victimhood, which is like,
Right.
why did this happen to me, and yada yada. So I feel like it really comes down to having the choice of believing that good things are going to happen to you, because the realities that we're constantly co-creating. And they say that
Yeah.
we neuroscience and quantum physics talks about the fact that we are constantly co-creating with reality, and that anything that happens is just a response to the sort of view that you have in life, and what you're to create a reality.
Think that we forget how powerful we are, and
That's
that
it.
we forget that the whole world, like, you think about that. Like, if you're sitting there thinking about, I am just thinking about red cars, right? They're going to start showing up. You start seeing them, and you're sitting there, you don't realize how powerful that is, that you start thinking about red cars, and all you're going to see is red cars. And
Mm.
it's wild like that. I remember my friend was obsessed with this one actor, and she was like, this is my dream person. I really want to meet them someday. And I was like, well, okay, maybe they're not that interesting in real life, whatever it might be. But what happened was she started attracting all these people that looked just like that person. Like, started dating, and they just started popping into her life. And I was like, I don't know how you have this obsession with that person, but it's kind of wild that they're popping up. In the end, though, what's interesting to me is that we have this power to create our lives, and we have this power to either choose one of two paths: a path of optimism or a path of pessimism. In the pessimism, yeah, certainly there might be tough things that come along. And I'm not saying be ignorant of ups and downs, but I am saying focus on the success that you could create. There's this great book called Barking Up the Wrong Tree by Eric Barker that talks about success. And one of the things he says is, if people who think they're luckier are luckier. Well, why? He goes into the science of it, because they simply try more. They get out there, they put themselves out there, and they believe that good things are going to happen. And when you do that, you're creating this, not even talking about manifesting, just sheer numbers, just sheer numbers. You're going to get more opportunities, you know? But I
Wow.
want to ask you about that too, because why do you think so many people find it easier to expect the worst instead of expecting something good?
Yeah, I feel because they want to see what's out there and be able to say, okay, I see that this is going like the example that I was saying, like, oh,
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't going to get the job. It protects
Yeah.
them in a certain
Yeah.
way, because they're not
100%.
let down because they were like, oh, see, I knew. So you make things worse, because I feel like it basically it confirms to your mind that what you were expecting was the worst case scenario.
We tie it up to our identity. Our identity becomes tied to, I'm the guy who's not successful. I'm the guy who never gets these things. Luck never goes my way. And people start telling themselves those stories. When you tell yourself those stories, it is really challenging, because, you might be lucky. You might be the person. And I'm saying that you are lucky. But if you don't get out there and try, it's always gonna be a no?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I know. You went into the root of it. Is these identities that we have built for ourselves, that also come from our childhood, right? So if you grew
Yep,
up poor, and your dad always told you, you gotta work hard to make it in life. Life is not fair. So you also have that sort of identities that you have to become aware of and let them go, because they are basically giving you limiting beliefs. And really, Sean, it also comes down to the neuroscience of, let's
yeah,
say when something bad happens, and when we talk about brain waves, we have beta brain waves, then we have alpha, and between beta and alpha, there's the analytical mind. And then we get
yep,
to theta. Theta is consciousness. In theta is when you're basically seeing opportunity, you're seeing solutions, you see potential. So when things bad happen to us, if we stay in the brain waves, that's too narrow. You don't see possibility, you don't see opportunities, you don't see solutions. And the problem at that level is that you're not really suggestible to new information. Have you ever had a friend who was having a really bad time and you gave them an advice, and he basically, it went up one ear and the
Yeah.
other, right? It's because when
All
you're
the
thinking
time.
lower brain, you cannot see possibility, and you cannot process new information.
100%. It's interesting too that when people like with my daughter, I have to get her to turn this on. She sits there and she's like, and like everything's spinning, but I'm like, all right, like focus in. We need to bring this back, bring it back to right now so that we can see where we're at. You know, where are we right now? Because the right now is where you can kind of make those decisions and get things grounded and figure things out. Because when you're sitting out there 2 years in the future, it's not easy to kind of stay grounded in what's going on. So I find that by pulling it back to now,
Yes.
like, because one of the things that you can only create in the present, like you can't create 10 years in the future, you can only create in the present. And I think in the present, there's always a silver lining. You know, with wherever you're at, there's always a silver lining if you can focus on it. But it's a mental reframing that you have to do. Now, I'll ask you, like, do you think believing good things are possible actually changes what people do today? You know, when I start thinking good things are possible, am I going to act different?
Yes, for sure. Because basically, when we talk about the feelings of fear, doubt, overthinking, those are basically not making us feel good, right? You don't feel expansive. You're closed, and this is when people start shrinking. They are shrinking themselves. They don't show up fully
Right.
on social media. They don't want to be seen because
Yep.
they have these sort of fears, and thinking that good things are going to happen. I think it really opens up a little bit of the field of unlimited possibilities. It allows you to see it beyond what you the material. Let me ask you this, Sean. When we talk
Yeah.
about having conviction, okay,
Mm,
and being convicted, and what's the other word that I'd really like? Anyway, about conviction. Conviction is going at it, going after your dreams, even when the proof isn't proven. You haven't seen it,
yes.
right?
Right.
So you have to go for it. And but humans, we're constantly looking for validations. Am I in the right track? Did people like my post? Are people liking it? We need that sort of validation. But having conviction basically allows us to move that bad point that things have not materialized, but you're going for it because you believe it so deep in your heart. How
Right.
does it has shown up for you?
For
Conviction.
me, I find that I feel this deep need to keep pushing, a deep need to keep going. And like
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like there's this, when I feel that conviction, it's something that tells me to walk across the stream even when I can't figure out a way. There's a great scene in the movie, I think it's called Harriet, about Harriet Tubman. And Cynthia Erzo plays the character, Harriet Tubman, and she's guiding slaves to freedom. And these slaves are escaping this horrible situation. And as they are crossing this river, they are wading into the river. And suddenly, what happens is like everyone's like, we're going to drown. The water's too deep. We are going to drown. And she says, no, we are not. And she walks out. She walks the whole way across the river and it never gets above her neck. And I find that conviction is that walking into the water when you don't know how deep it is, but you know that either A, you'll be able to figure out a way across, B, you'll be able to figure out how to swim, C, you're going to figure something out, you know? But you will be able to get across. And I think that is the most important thing is to figure out how to keep walking forward even when there doesn't seem to be a way.
Oh, that's deep. That's so deep. And you know what? The other thing that I'm thinking about, Sean, is that there's two things at play here.
Yeah.
We have free will as humans, right?
Yeah.
And there's divine intervention, which
Yeah.
is allowing, if you believe in God, whoever your God is, if you believe in universe, Allah, whoever that person is for you have to allow a space for divine intervention, and this is what I believe, that the system, like going to school telling you that you need a job to work 8 to 5, and yada yada, and the religion putting God outside of yourself has done
Yes.
wrong things for us, because suddenly we don't feel like we are also creating a reality, and we don't basically allow for there to be space for God to actually intervene and for miracles to happen.
Mhm. I love that because if you close off before you even start, if you close the door before you even walk out the door, there's no room. There is no room for anything good to happen. Um, and that's the thing. It has to be open. You have to open that door for there to be permission for things to happen. And it makes me think about this too, because optimism versus self-deception. And those are two different things, you know? Optimism is this belief that there is a way. And even if you don't know the way, there's a belief that there is a way. Like deception or lying to yourself is this idea that I'm not going to look at something that's going on over here. Optimism is I'm fully aware of all of these possibilities, but I still am choosing to think that there's a way. I'm choosing to think that things will go better than I think because, so say you're out on a hike and you see something, you're like, oh, that looks a little dangerous. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go, hey, I'm going to go dance on the edge. It means, I see that. I think that I'm going to have a safe, wonderful trip, but I see these challenges. It's not about lying to yourself, but it's about figuring out how to focus on one side while being aware that there are more than one
Mhm.
possibility.
Mhm. Yeah. And to add to that, Sean, also believing that you can overcome anything.
Hmm.
Right? I feel like that's also something that we get too caught up and if I were to go talk about the conversation that we're having, it's really, how do you take yourself from your analytical brain that on
Right.
a daily basis you can go to ChatGPT, to Claude, and look up on a daily basis how many thoughts does a human being have. It comes out to be like
Right.
70,000 thoughts, and out of those 70,000 thoughts, 80% of those thoughts are the same as before, the day before, the day before, the day before, the day before. So is
Yeah.
how do you rewire your brain to see possibilities, to let go of identities that no longer serve you, that are giving you limiting beliefs, and how do you become more aware? Because it's easy to do a meditation, but then after you come out from the meditation, you have to be aware during your day so you can actually regulate on real time and say, oh, wait, that's such a lack mentality mindset. I'm going to shift myself a little bit. And also not
Hmm.
judge yourself or shame yourself because you're having these thoughts. It's all about also giving yourself compassion, but really it comes down to being aware to be able to regulate and change those things in real time during your day, which is super hard. Because we're in autopilot.
Right? We are on autopilot and we aren't aware of and I think that one of the challenges is becoming about aware of how many negative thoughts we have going through our head. Like there are so many and people get just bogged down by the negative and don't realize how heavy it can get. There's a lot that we have that can go wrong, but like again, there's a lot that can go right. And you can sit there and go, hey, I'm going to slow down right now and reevaluate because that reevaluation is like taking the time to step back and go, "Mm, doomsday, like this doomsday mentality, like, oh, it's all going to fall apart. It's like, oh, it's going to wreck. And I feel like the part of this is about slowing down that part of us that's catastrophizing. That's like
Mhm.
everything's really messed up right now. No, it's not. It might be that you're dealing with some ups and downs, but you know what? You have the ability to get through them. And it simply comes down to deep breathing, present moment awareness. And I find the thing that helps me the most is music, finding a playlist that helps me shift my energy because you have to be in that positive, happy place to be able to create it, you know? And I think that that is the most important thing for me is to be aware of how to kind of change up my vibration, so you say, you know?
I love that. I love music is life for sure. I cannot do anything without music.
100%. What's your go-to playlist when you're feeling down?
No, no, no. When I feel down, honestly, I just have like a shuffle most play on Spotify. Yeah,
Oh, I
which
love
is
it.
a mix of a lot of different genres. So it's not like a specific thing that I go to.
I love it. Well, it's a good mix, you know? Well, I want to ask you this next question too, because have there been moments in your life where you're expecting something good helped you move differently or make a better decision?
Yeah, absolutely. When would I see this? Yeah, I mean, I would say in general, yes, for sure. I think it's really about taking it one day at a time. I feel like sometimes we get too bottled up by time, right? Am I
Mhm.
behind in life? you know? And
Right?
I feel like sometimes there's so much pressure that we have to post on LinkedIn, we have to post on Instagram. And
Right.
I actually have taken away myself from feeling anything that causes me pressure, I do not give into. So right
Yeah.
now, when it comes down to writing content, I like to write content when I feel like it, right?
I love that.
And I'll tell you when it feels real instead of all of these creators that feel the pressure that they need to post. So you also need to think about where is the energy that is coming from when you're posting, right? Is it performance?
Mhm.
Do you want validation? Do you want likes? Or is it coming because you have something truly important to share, right?
Right.
I wanted to share with you this analogy that this mentor that I have. I was listening to a podcast of her the other day, and she was basically talking about the resistance before we get out there to do the thing. We already have built so much resistance in our heads. So
Mm.
I'll give you an example. So when you go to the gym and you lift a 2 pound weight, everybody can lift a 2 pound weight, right? But if I put my arm on top of your arm while you're holding that 2 pound weight, suddenly it feels heavier. It becomes
Mhm.
a 30 pound weight, right? And
Yeah.
this basically goes back to that resistance that sometimes doing the damn thing is a 2 pound weight. It's
Right.
easy to do it, but the resistance we work ourselves so much before doing the thing that now it feels like it's so heavy. So now when anything that I do, I'm like, yeah, this is so easy. This is 2 pound weight because obviously it is normal that we feel resistant to do certain things, but it burns so much energy the overthinking before you get out there. And I feel like this is a good example to give you of what has helped me to move in a much lighter way through life instead of feeling like I have a lot of resistance to things.
Mm. So interesting. I wanna ask you this though too, because how do some people almost feel safer being negative than being hopeful? Because, I mean, it can really be easy to get down into that.
Yeah. No, I really think they have built an identity around this. Really.
Mhm.
And it also depends who you hang out with. So there's several factors. We spoke about like when you're a child. If you had a parent that was very pessimistic about life, trust me, you might have picked up a little bit from that and you grew up thinking that life is going to be hard because you saw your parents struggle. So suddenly it's like life is hard, life is hard. Then you go on to school and I feel like one of the things that influences a lot is the people that you hang out with. If you hang out with very pessimistic people, guess what?
Yeah.
You're gonna think about a very pessimistic world. So I really think about the fact that we have created these identities that come from childhood, the people that we hang out with, and in general, this is the outlook that we have in life. And also, we talked about also social media, right? Social media is now for the past year saying AI is gonna take our jobs, AI is gonna because this is what does well in the news and what does well in
Right?
social media. So
Right?
we'll have to be careful of what we expose ourselves to.
I 100% agree. Everyone is so quick to, like, jump on the bandwagon of fear. It's really a challenging move to figure out how to not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely challenging. But having the awareness of like, hey, am I being too negative or too positive? Yeah, I mean, like, which way are you leaning? That's why I'm saying you're either in surviving mode or you're
Yeah.
thriving. You have to choose which one you're going to be on, because surviving, it's not going to help you move forward. You're either, Joe Dispenza says that you are either a record of the past or you are creating in the future. Which one?
Yes.
Like, which one are you
Right?
doing?
It it has to be one, and, it's really interesting because for me, you have to choose. And one of the things too that I find, and I wanna ask you about this because I believe that when you start expecting good things to come, it makes you more resilient. It helps you bounce back because you're like, "Well, this is temporary setback," and it's a mindset thing. I think that this is just a temporary problem. I really think that something good is coming. So how do I make that happen?
You know, what I'm thinking about is the fact that not a lot of people do introspection or contemplation
Right?
about who they are, and it's uncomfortable because it takes a certain amount of responsibility, of self
Yeah.
leadership, to find out
Yes.
what do I think, the things that I think, right? Because if we talk, you don't want to be the sheep that follows what society is doing. At some point you got to break away from the system. This is basically the matrix. You take the red pill
Yeah.
or the blue pill, and at some point you
Right?
need to question the way that you were raised. You need to question the way that you think. I feel like having that sort of self leadership, it's what can help you to see other opportunities or other doors. And yeah, just like what you said, building resilience through thinking like, okay, I know challenges are going to come, I can do it, and I know I can go through them. I feel like believing in yourself and backing yourself up also creates a bit of resilience.
Because when you start looking at it going, you know what? I've gotten through 5 things like this in the past. I know that those didn't beat me up. So if I got through that, I can certainly get through this. And it's like it becomes much easier to think about the way through those things. Like I remember when I was learning to ride a bicycle and I rode a simple bicycle. But then once I figured out that bicycle, I was like, wow, I mean, if was able to ride that bicycle, I can ride this little bit bigger one. And it was something that I was thinking of like, what was some of the things that helped me. And I know it seems like people, oh, well, you talk about all this stuff, but what can I do? Habits. I think that habits are one of the most important things that someone can start putting into play to create this positive mindset. And I want to ask you, like, what habits help someone start shifting from fear and doubt into hope and expectation?
Is now number one is stop doom scrolling. And I must say,
Yes.
I'm not a
Yes.
perfect person. I'm not a perfect person, but it shouldn't be the way that you wake up in the morning and you immediately get on Instagram. No, because the morning is the biggest moment for you to prime yourself for the day. So in
Yep.
the morning, you want to. I personally am a huge believer of meditating. Okay,
Right.
and
Me too.
meditating to do two things: get from yourself out of your analytical brain, like train it. It will take a time at first. Yes, you're gonna have thoughts of like, oh, I have to buy this, or like a very intrusive thought. The idea is just to watch the thoughts and let them go, and over time you will have less of these sort of thoughts. And I personally like guided meditations. But then I would say the second thing that meditating does is getting over yourself. You just gotta get over yourself, right? Like we
Right.
just need to get over
Right.
ourselves. So I would say those two habits already would do a lot of big things for you. I mean, you really have to pay attention as to how you're spending your time. And then of course you want to feel good. Habits like going to the gym, like it's really good for your brain waves. It's really good overall to be able to um, release dopamine and oxytocin and all of these feeling good things. Because the fact of the matter is, if you are unhealthy, you're not going to feel really good. You're not going to have the energy. So I would say
Mm,
those three things. So maybe it really also comes down to the lifestyle, if you want to say.
I love that. I think it is a lifestyle, and, I love that we bring up exercise because I think exercise and getting out and having meditation, yoga, those are things that might seem, uh, little, but they help you have little wins. And little wins are some of the things that I think are some of those, and that's why I love the habits, because if you're like, "I'm gonna accomplish some big goal," man, big goals can feel really overwhelming, really
Yeah.
overwhelming. Um, but if you can break it into little pieces, then it's much, 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 much easier to say, "Hey, you know what? I succeeded 25 times yesterday. I can succeed in other ways too." Um,
Yeah.
and I like it because there is this ability, uh for them to change it, but they have to want to be change it. They have to believe they can change it. And deep down, a lot of people block their own blessings because they don't think they're good enough or they don't believe they're worthy enough. And I want to ask you, how can someone start identifying ways that they aren't believing in themselves?
Oof. This is another deep topic.
Mm, right?
This is deep because a lot of us, even including myself, um, from childhood, we grow up thinking, like, let's say if you have parents that were present and they were able to give you the love that you needed, you have safety within your body. But if you grew up with a parent that was absent, you feel unsafe, right? And then you create these sort of like traumas. So one of the things that as adults we then start doing is feeling not worthy, feeling like people don't see you, feeling like you need something outside of yourself to complete you. And suddenly we go into really unhealthy relationships. We shrink to fit a certain sort of like friend or whatnot. I feel like
Mhm.
the number one thing that has helped me to basically know that I am worthy of the life of my dreams. So I'm worthy of being a millionaire. A lot of people do not think
Yeah,
they're worthy of being a millionaire. So thinking
right.
like they're never going to be a millionaire has kept them thinking like, oh, I'm probably never gonna really win millions. So I think it's just changing these identities and letting them go because they don't serve me any good. Is
I
this
love
identity?
that. I love it, that shifting of the identity, because I remember for a long time sitting there telling myself, "I am not good with money. I am not good with money. I am not good with money." And I'm suddenly it was like this realization, like, I am good with money. I just didn't have the right opportunities to interact with it. And then when I started to be able to interact with it more, I was like, "Wow, I'm actually much better with money than I thought."
Mm,
So it's interesting that, um, we tell ourselves these little stories in our head, but so often they're just like these toxic little things. And for
yeah.
me, the secret for me to try to be more positive is to really slow down and to minimize the number of inputs I'm dealing with as well. If I have too much stuff come into my head, especially the news, especially when I'm seeing all of the bad things happening around the world, it gets overwhelming. And the truth is not all of that affects my life, but I think that those things just get in there. And if you get so much loaded into your head, it's really hard to be optimistic, you know? Um, but when I've been optimistic, I've seen doors open that I didn't know would be able to open. And I want to ask you that. Like, have you seen optimism actually open doors in life that another mentality might have kept closed?
Yeah, look, one of my mentors has this really good analogy as well. I don't know if it's analogy, but she always says, if a door doesn't open for you, it's because of the person that is behind the door.
Oh,
That's it. And this is
wow.
uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable because you have to take responsibility of who are you? Like, how are you showing up to life? If you're not showing up like the expansive person that you want to be, then how do you expect that door to open for you? So, but I would say 100%, there's been many times that I can count where me just having an optimistic mindset, and just having the conviction within myself of knowing I know I'm incredible, I know I'm gonna get the job, did ended up allowing me to get the job. And also, what do I do if I don't get the job? The reality is that you also have to tell yourself, if I don't get the job, that doesn't mean anything about me. I'm still an
Yep.
incredible person. It means that something else better is coming. So I didn't get this. So see how you were shifting the perspective, but you also know that something better is coming, because if you were meant to get the job, you would have gotten the job, right? So so yeah, I would say optimism has helped me to open doors, or if the door did not open, to know that at least something better is coming, or that there's other areas in my life that I need to pay a little bit more of attention.
It's like a light, shining a light. You have to turn that light on to see areas where there is no light. If you are not happy with your finances, well, when you shine that light into that room and you see where am I losing money? You're not happy with your this or that. Well, where are you not aligned? And I think that optimism is this powerful thing that says, okay, I might not have all the information, but I have enough to figure out the next step. And I think that once you have that optimism, that mindset, because it's not this, I think that people think optimism is just like, well, hey, yo, buddy. My favorite example of optimism is the TV show Ted Lasso. And in that, Ted gets sent over from America. He gets recruited to coach a football team in England. He knows nothing about soccer or football, but he knows about optimism. And when he gets there, he's always positive and optimistic, and everyone thinks that he's just this idiot. You don't see the problems. And he's looking at them. And finally, there's a point where he's like, I know that I'm not a football coach. I know that I am not prepared to be here. I know that I am in like over my head. But I also know people. I know optimism and I know how to connect with people to get them to get to that next level, to be inspired, to do amazing things. And by doing that, his like it's just this he's like, and that's why I'm going to keep showing up. And one of the superpowers of optimism for me is that optimism is directly tied to resilience. You might not have everything that you need to. Optimism might not mean that you have this magic wand that everything's going to be easy, but it might be the magic wand that allows you to keep showing up and allows you to keep putting one foot in front of the other, because sometimes that's the medicine that you need. Sometimes that's the magic you need, is the simple ability to keep showing up, you know?
Yeah, I love this. I love this. For sure, look, through career, even through my career, there were times that I got the job and I knew I didn't have like all the experience, but I knew I could figure it out. I'm like, I know I can
100%.
figure it out. I can figure it out. So I feel like that can take you even further. And again, we go back to the resistance. If you don't take that first step, then you will never actually know. But having an optimistic mindset will definitely allow you to overcome anything, I think.
I agree. And I think one of the most powerful parts of that is that you are going to be surrounding yourself by people who also have that mindset. You're
Yeah.
going to be pulling in these people that, and this is if this is the one secret sauce that I can find from this to tell people, focus on this. Surround yourself by people who also have that optimistic mindset. Because
Yes.
I remember that I had this business idea and I went up to this one friend of mine and I told him the idea and they're like, yeah, that's not good. That's going to fail. You're going to have all these problems. These are all the things that can go wrong. And I was like, I don't want to be hearing that. Like, I understand that there's things that can go wrong. I understand that there could be problems. I want to hear ways that I can make it succeed. I want to hear, you know what? That's great. I believe in you. Keep trying. Keep at it. See what you can accomplish. Because in my own head, I have that negativity. It
Yeah.
pops up sometimes. I try to keep it at bay, but it pops up at times. So what I want to do is to surround myself with other people who can also see what could go right and help me see that as well.
Yeah, we definitely need big cheerleaders.
Right?
And the thing is, like, this is really a reflection of their own limitations. And
Yes.
they're projecting onto you, because it also makes them feel uncomfortable, that you're going for it, and maybe they're not going for things that they want to go for. So that's basically they go and have a projections into what the reality is. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. What's one way that you show up every day in your own life and try to be more optimistic?
What is one way that I show up in my life being optimistic?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I feel like one way in which I show up really big is at work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say at work I'm building a new department, so there's a lot of eyes on me and a lot of expectation, and I guess a felt pressure. But yeah, knowing that everything is a 2 pound weight, then of course I can do
Yeah.
it. Of course I can figure out building up the department, And the crazy thing is that one of my mentors says that at the end of the day, whether we're talking about past, present, future, all parallel realities are happening right now, and you're just
Yeah.
really remembering. So it's interesting to know that I tell myself a lot, I'm remembering. I've already set up this department. It's already a successful department. I'm just remembering how I have done it,
I love that.
you know?
I try to see, like, a younger version of myself. I like to visualize a little Sean and sit there and see that Sean and go and tell him, "You know what? You might not have all the answers, but you can figure this out. You can figure
Yeah.
this out. And if you get stuck, I'm here with you, and I'll help you figure it out." And I think that has been my secret sauce of just telling myself, keep showing up.
Mhm.
And, when you do, try to have the best attitude you can and
Yeah.
remember that it's good to have.
It's good. Yeah, this is really what it comes down to. It comes down like, look, we come into this life, right? To get to know yourself, to follow your highest excitement with maximum enthusiasm, right? And hopefully we don't have much expectation, but we have created all this pressure about making it big in life, buying a house, buying a car.
Yeah,
It's almost like
right?
time and feeling behind. We have set this timeline. And we see a friend buying a house, and suddenly we're like, "Oh fuck, I'm behind." And I feel like
Right.
we have just created too much pressure for ourselves, and we need
100%.
to relax, because also this is connected to the nervous system. They always feeling on alert or hypervigilance when you're constantly searching for a threat outside of yourself. And really, life is meant to be an big adventure, and because we're when we're also playing, we are inspired, we are creative. And if you're not playing, then I don't even know what is the meaning of life if we put ourselves so much pressure.
Yeah, right? I try to every day stay more optimistic as well because of my why. And my why is the little daughter that I have that every day, and I think about this, like, if I just were every day trying to tell her doom and gloom, "You know what? Dad, I wanna go up for this thing at school." "Yeah, you could, or, you might fail, and failing's awful." And think about that, if you were someone was to talk to you that way. And so I just try to remind myself to talk in a way that is as uplifting as I can, because maybe it's not gonna be easy. When my daughter's out there training boxing, boxing's not easy. Some days you fall down, sometimes it hurts. But if you can keep showing up, keep getting up, keep standing up, you'll feel better afterwards. You'll feel stronger afterwards, and you'll be happy you did. And I think that's where it's just one day at a time. And you know what? Maybe optimism isn't the complete answer, but it sure is going to make your life feel better than the
Mm,
options and the alternatives, you know?
that's it. That's it. You nailed it. You nailed it. It's
Yeah.
for sure gonna make you feel better. What do you want to do? Stay there and count how many ways life has done you wrong,
Yeah.
and why it's not fair. No, you have to like move on and start creating from a place of the future. And really, our children are our biggest medicine and our biggest teachers. And
Yes.
I believe they're the parents have a big path to enlightenment, development because of our children, because they remind us so much about what it is to play. And really, if you're a conscious parent as well, you want to raise children from a place of high consciousness, right? That
Right.
they can that they're unstoppable, that they have no limit, that they feel empowered, that they feel confident, and that they feel like they can do it all.
I
So
love
great
that.
job.
I love it, and if we can spread some of that onto our adult selves, it's even better.
Yeah.
Where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Yes, so people can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Ivy Forero. I'm really good at responding messages on LinkedIn. I like to believe that. So you can message me, or you can find me also on Instagram as well by the same name.